Ever since I was a child, I've been fascinated by Paris, the city of lights. I've always dreamed of visiting, of strolling through the city streets, sipping hot chocolate in cozy cafes, and admiring the beautiful architecture. When I finally had the opportunity, I couldn't wait to make my dream a reality. My journey began at Charles de Gaulle Airport, where I was greeted by the hustle and bustle of travelers from all over the world. The air was filled with a mix of excitement, anticipation, and the lingering aroma of freshly baked croissants. I could feel the magic of Paris starting to seep into my veins. After collecting my luggage and taking a taxi to my Airbnb, I was thrilled to discover that my accommodations were even more charming than I had imagined. Nestled in the heart of Montmartre, the city's artistic heart, my cozy little apartment offered a breathtaking view of the iconic Sacré-Cœur Basilica. Unable to resist the allure of the city, I quickly changed into my comfortable walking shoes and set out to explore. The streets were a symphony of sights, sounds, and smells. Vendors hawked their wares, musicians serenaded passers-by, and the aroma of freshly baked baguettes wafted from every corner. It was wonderful. As I wandered through the labyrinthine streets, I felt a sense of admiration as I encountered iconic landmarks like the Eiffel Tower, the Louvre Museum, and the Notre Dame Cathedral. As the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the cobblestone streets, the city transformed into a magical wonderland. The twinkling lights of the Eiffel Tower pierced the darkening sky, like a constellation of diamonds scattered across the velvet cloth of night. I couldn't help but feel a sense of enchantment as I strolled through the streets, full of light, the sound of laughter and chatter all around me. Finally, I decided to retreat to my Airbnb, ready to savor the Parisian sunset from the comfort of my balcony. As I settled into a cozy armchair, I closed my eyes, inhaling the crisp evening air and letting the city's magic wash over me. A sense of peace and contentment settled into my heart, and I felt a smile grace my lips. Just as I was about to open my eyes and take in the breathtaking view, a movement caught my attention. Across the street, in a building that stood shrouded in darkness, it looked like I saw the silhouette of a person getting struck standing next to one of the windows. As I tried to get a better view, suddenly, a dark figure appeared. Was this all just a trick of the light? Then, like it sensed me, the figure was staring directly at me, its eyes glowing with an eerie intensity. My heart pounded in my chest, and a shiver ran down my spine. I quickly closed my curtains. Did it see me? Then, after a while, I looked from behind a small gap, hoping I would catch a glimpse unnoticed. This time, however, there was nothing to be seen. Perhaps I just imagined it all. Relieved, though still shaking, I laughed it off as I went to bed. The next morning, I awoke with a lingering sense of unease, the memory of the previous night's encounter still fresh in my mind. Despite the lingering worry, I decided to push aside my anxieties and continue exploring the city, determined not to let fear dictate my Parisian experience. I spent the day immersing myself in Paris, visiting the next iconic places of the city and tasting the city's culinary delights. As the sun began to set, I found myself drawn to a lively restaurant. I settled into a cozy corner of the restaurant, enjoying the French cuisine. However, as the evening progressed, my attention was drawn to a figure standing motionless across the street, blending into the shadows cast by the fading light. I couldn't see the figure well, but there was something about its stillness and its presence that sent a shiver down my spine. Suddenly, an unsettling thought crossed my mind. Could this be the same figure I had seen the previous evening? A wave of unease washed over me, causing me to forget the atmosphere of the restaurant. I found myself unable to fully enjoy my meal, my mind consumed by the unsettling sight. The figure remained motionless, its presence a constant reminder of the unsettling encounter from the night before. Unable to shake off the feeling of being watched, I decided to cut my evening short and make my way back to my Airbnb. The walk back felt like an eternity, each step echoing my growing suspicion of being followed. The city, once a source of enchantment and delight, now seemed shrouded in an evil undertone. Finally, I reached the familiar haven of my Airbnb, the warm glow of the apartment light offering a sense of relief. I quickly drew the curtains, casting out the darkness and the unsettling thoughts that had plagued me. Looking through the gap between the curtains, I watched the street below, searching for any sign of the figure. The street was empty, the only movement the occasional passing car and some people. A sense of calm washed over me, and I began to question whether the figure had been real or merely a trick of my imagination. 2 nights in a row. How was that possible? I convinced myself that my imagination had gotten the better of me, the excitement and unfamiliarity of the city playing tricks on my mind. Reassured, I turned off the light and settled into bed, determined to put the unsettling events of the evening behind me. As I drifted off to sleep, I promised myself to enjoy my visit, refusing to let fear cast a shadow over my newfound Parisian adventure. The third and final day of my Parisian adventure began bright and sunny, casting a cheerful glow over the city. Determined to make the most of my remaining time, I set out to explore the last places Paris had to offer me. The city was abuzz with life, the streets full of tourists and locals alike. I wandered through the markets, admiring the colours and inviting smells, and paused to admire the intricate details of the architecture. As the sun began its descent, I found myself drawn back to the familiar comfort of my Airbnb apartment. With a hint of sadness knowing that my Parisian adventure was nearing its end, I decided to pack my belongings, preparing for my departure the following morning. As I sat on the couch, looking back at the incredible experiences I had, the doorbell rang. This surprised me, as I hadn't been expecting any visitors. Perhaps it was my host. Peering through the peephole, I saw nothing but an empty hallway. The apartment building had a security camera, and I looked at the screen, hoping for a clue to the visitor's identity. But the screen was blank. A wave of fear washed over me as I recalled the mysterious figure I had seen on previous nights. Could it be? The thought sent shivers down my spine. I decided to ignore the doorbell, hoping the unwanted visitor would go away. Suddenly, the lights in the hallway flickered on, and footsteps echoed towards my door. My heart raced as I held my breath, frozen in fear. The footsteps stopped just outside my door, and I could hear the faint sound of door knob jiggling. The door had a good locking system, but I still felt panic. Just as I braced myself for the worst, a voice boomed through the apartment hallway in fluent French. I didn't understand what was said, but I figured it was something like, "That's the wrong door, fool," followed by 2 persons laughing. The footsteps retreated, and the hallway lights plunged back into darkness. Relief washed over me, and I let out a shaky sigh. I tried to resume reading, but my mind was racing, replaying the events of the past few days. The shadow of the figure loomed large in my thoughts, and I couldn't shake off the feeling that I was being watched. As if to confirm my fears, the lights of the hallway flickered back on, and I caught a glimpse of a shadow lurking outside the door. It stood motionless, silent. My heart pounded in my chest, and I knew I had to act quickly. With trembling hands, I dialed the emergency number, desperately seeking the protection of the police. The French operator struggled to understand my panicked English, but they eventually managed to grasp the situation. I watched from the window as the police car pulled up to the building. A wave of relief washed over me as I saw the uniformed officers emerge from the vehicle. The elevator doors opened on my floor, and the lights flickered back on, illuminating the shadow in the hallway. As the police approached the door, the shadow retreated, vanishing into the darkness. Then, the officers knocked on the door. "Police, open the door!" Their voices firm and reassuring. I rushed to greet them, my voice trembling as I recounted the terrifying events of the evening. The police searched the building thoroughly, but they found no trace of the mysterious figure. They assured me that they would continue to investigate and advised me to stay cautious until my departure. As the police left, I was left alone with the lingering sense of dread that had been haunting me for the past few days. The Parisian adventure that had once been filled with excitement and wonder now seemed tainted by an unsettling presence. With a heavy heart, I packed my remaining belongings and prepared for my departure. The following day, I left the apartment feeling like a shadow of my former self, the unsettling events of the evening casting a dark cloud over my Parisian adventure. I would never look at Paris the same. As we near the end of the video, we would like to thank you, and we hope you enjoyed this scary Airbnb experience. Please subscribe to our channel, leave a like, and let us know what you think. Until our next Shivering Chronicle.